half your employee track could be doing this on a daily basis. There's nothing practical about this industry right now. Where can I pull all my information, all my data into a localized one area of resource? As the adage goes, good help is hard to find, right?
This is a conversation series about the people shaping the future of healthcare. These are the leaders who see opportunity where others see obstacles. Each episode highlights experts that understand the complexity of healthcare but choose to act with clarity, purpose, and optimism. We call ourselves co-conspirators because we aren't sitting around waiting for change. We are driving it. Welcome to the Co-Conspirator Track.
Kris, welcome to the Co-Conspirator Track. You are our first OG co-conspirator to be on the pod. For those who don't know, Kris is our Chief Strategy Officer here at Valere. So Kris, why don't you tell us about Valere and your role as our CSO?
Hey, thanks, Caleb. Thanks for having me on as one of the OGs for this podcast. Excited to be here, not only partly because we're doing it internally, but a lot of good content's been coming out already, and we've had a lot of good partners on this show previously, so excited to be one of them. So thanks for that. As my title suggests here for Valere, I lead all things strategy, and what that entails is where we're going to go for as a company, not only from a business standpoint, but as an industry standpoint. Tools and our strategies be leveraged to enhance and elevate this industry that we're in today, and not only the HME, DME, but the whole post-acute world that we live in. And so Valere has been really focused on bringing together all the various data endpoints, whether they be from EMRs through third-party vendors to distributors to manufacturers. How does all that data movement and interoperability affect the day-to-day operations for everyday businesses such as HMEs and DMEs that we partner with today? So that's really the core of what we're doing and how we're getting there. We do that through automations of various workflows and optimizing those workflows, as well as looking at various opportunities for revenue growth and strategies. So combining those two worlds together and making it really seamless, like I said, through those automations, allows for your high volume resources and high value resources be able to do what they do best and not be doing the grunt work, like I like to call it, on the hamster wheel of life there. So that's really what we're aiming to do and have been executing on just under the last 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're really about business optimization, and that's what we've kind of decided, hey, let's make this the focus of that, of how do DME businesses optimize their business, scale their business, make it more efficient, especially with this competitive bid program coming up, right? So what does it practically look like for a DME owner to optimize their business? Can you give us a few pointers?
Yeah, you use the word practical. And one thing I'm sure every DME owner who's watching this is going to say is nothing practical about this industry right now. So, there's a lot of fragmentation, right, in our industry. We've got ERP systems that are, either don't or may not talk efficiently to third-party applications. Then we've got distributor programs and systems that are managing our formulary. And we've got RCM tools that are there or managing our AR and our revenue generation and pull through. And so when you think about the holistic nature of a business, how do I really understand how to optimize when everything's in disparate systems, right? And that's where I think our system and solution at Valere has been most leveraged, right? In understanding just where can I pull all my information, all my data into a localized one area of resource, whether some folks like to use a Power BI tool, whether some use Tableau, whether they have some homegrown systems. Some people still love building macros in Excel format and going down that route. While we don't recommend it, it's a way, right? It's a way to look at your business and build it out and move forward. So when we talk about business optimization, it starts, number one, with what data is available and where it's available, and two, the workflows around that, right? So understanding truly what the workflow is end to end, the life cycle of an order, the life cycle of how things are getting, products, I should say, are getting from A to B to C, right? What the B2B relationships are and understanding those, and the B2B to C relationships as well, when you're talking about how to get things to the patient at the end of the day in an effective manner. Getting that holistic viewpoint is really the key of, really how do you optimize, where do you start? You mentioned competitive bid. A lot of folks in our industry have been through it, hopefully have survived it. Some have maybe have not, but are back in the industry. So it's an interesting life cycle there as well. And I think the core of understanding where to bid appropriately and how to bid appropriately is truly understanding your business and being able to pull all the information in accordingly to get that full picture.
What do you think that lowest hanging fruit is? What's that first workflow? If you're like, okay, I'm a DME business owner, I'm overwhelmed, right? Nothing is practical. Everything is complex about what we do. So what would you recommend they optimize first? Is there a workflow? Is there a process? Is there a piece of their business? You're like, hey, let's start here and let's get this going.
Yeah, that's a great question, Caleb. And I think the most impactful area and easy to lift area, so to speak, I'm doing my air quotes over here, is around the QA QC check of orders that are about to get delivered and go out the door. We see a number of folks and providers in our industry who say, hey, I've got a high volume of resources looking at orders, making sure those orders are coinciding with the requirements by the payers, the specific payers, or the requirements by getting the formulary set appropriately from a financial standpoint, and then sending that out the door appropriately, and making sure that we're not going to either get a denial on the back end, we're not going to send out a product that was way out of price, right, for what we had originally planned to affect our AR and our opportunity for revenue. And then ultimately, is it the right product for the right patient at the right time, right? So those three checks have to happen consistently. And it is a high volume drag for a lot of resources for larger companies, especially. I'd say larger, meaning anybody over the size of 3 to 5 employees. Half your employee track could be doing this on a daily basis. So we've found that we've got an automation around that workflow. There's some variance, I'd say, customer to customer and client to client. But on the whole, we're able to sit there and automate that manual step of looking at, let's say, these 20 variables and saying, does this order meet this criteria? And if so, we're going to push it through to order status and set it up in a WIP state, depending on the ERP you're using, or whichever system you want to put it into.
So you mentioned earlier talking about, the kind of the state of DME businesses in the industry. And you talked about all of the different systems it requires for a DME owner requires to run their business. So kind of walk through that silo. Everyone's chaining everything together through APIs or some way or another, or it's typically done manually, right? So you have Susie keying data from system A to B, and then somebody else from B to C. And really, it's just the same data over and over and over. And you just have this workforce moving data. Is there an opportunity here for DME owners to optimize their business?
Yeah, 100%. Most DME owners are looking for more ways to optimize, right? The common buzzer right now is AI and workflow automation. So how do we leverage those types of tools out there in order to really look at your workflows and understand where are there opportunities for me to take out those manual steps or those repetitive steps and it put some smart engine to it, right? And understanding where that is number one. So you really have to have a great understanding of your workflow. And then secondly is how these tools get plugged into those workflows, right? You could take a perfect workflow and put the wrong tool in the wrong part of that workflow, and then you're in the same spot at the end of the day from an optimized standpoint. So what you really need to do is have a good partner in this. And one of the things that a lot of good AI solutions or workflow automation solutions, when they come in, one thing I would look for is, do they understand the value of the workflow and where to implement the specific tool into that workflow is a critical component. Because if you don't, you're still going to have a choppy kind of fragmented area to go, and you're not going to be fully optimized. Now, back to the original point of your question, when you're saying, is there a great opportunity here for business owners to look at automation? %, right? Again, for the right partner at the right time in that workflow, it is. But without automation, we talked a little bit about competitive bid coming up, not to keep hounding that word, but in order to sustain your business in the future with all the compression happening, not only from competitive bid, but just general rates dropping, and the cuts that are coming at Medicare, we as an industry, we as healthcare professionals are going to have to find ways to be more efficient in optimizing your systems and optimizing your time in the work that you're doing on a daily basis. And the only way to do that is to leverage these tools that are out there.
So you mentioned tools, and I'd like to just kind of practically talk about us at Valere and the tools that we leverage to help automate these workflows. And really the two that stand out is RPA, robotic process automation, and then event-driven data streaming. So as opposed to APIs or point-to-point connectivity, can you just very briefly walk through each of those tools and how we leverage them and, maybe, how they're a really kind of a unique approach to what you're seeing typically in AI and automation companies today?
Yeah. And like I said earlier, we've got those two tools, right? Those two solutions around RPA, robotic process automation. It's been around forever, right? It's nothing new. It's nothing glamorous. It's not sexy, but it's effective, right? Where it fills gaps, whether an API call that you're doing today, while it's very effective and efficient to some manner, but it may not have all the data elements you need, right? You might need 100 data elements to fulfill an actual order that you're looking for, let's say in wound care. An API call may generally get you there 80, maybe 85% of the way, but there's still that 15% gap of elements that are needed in order to be able to process an order effectively and minimize your opportunity for denial. Right? So, or risk of denial, I should say. So that's where an RPA solution can come in, proactively go in and grab those elements that are needed and pull those through. And similarly, you can use event data streaming that we do from our architectural standpoint to do that almost near real time. And so event data streaming actually goes through and picks data points. So let's say of those 100 data points I needed, 85 are there. I only need to get 15. Throughout the day, I can go and pick 15 out and pull them down. Where most other solutions out there today in general are doing more bulk transfers. So you might have to wait till the end of the day. You might have to wait till certain times of the day to receive all the data you need. Then you deploy your RPA tool to go extract that data and then move it along. So not only is that more cumbersome to the host system that you're getting the data from, it's more cumbersome to you receiving it, to analyze it and then deploy it. And so that's where our architecture has been very unique in the sense that we're able to do this in a more effective and efficient manner and really drive a better experience. And obviously, you're not hitting these systems so heavily that they're going to be bogged down and performance becomes a problem and things like that. So a lot of upstream efficiencies and downstream effects that are helping the overall process.
So when we talk about business optimization, ideally, right, we are cutting our costs, but hopefully there's growth there too, right? We're becoming more efficient and our company's growing. Typically in a DME company, growth equals more staff. I have to hire more people. So what is that? Is that shifting in with this AI and automation? And what does that blueprint look like in 2025, 2026? If I'm a DME owner, I'm like, okay, I'm really need to buckle down here into 2025. What do I need to start leveraging so that 2026 can grow and scale, truly grow and scale, increase that margin and not having to constantly do this churn of employees in and out and keep that hiring up? What does that blueprint look like?
Yeah, I mean, as the adage goes, good help is hard to find, right? So a number of owners and operators that we've talked to are, consistency around resources has been a challenge, but growth is always the goal. Right. So you're not going to be able to achieve growth if you're constantly churning, like you said, on resources. So that's where automation is a huge asset to these providers and these businesses in the sense that, you've got a stable opportunity, a stable resource for these manual processes, for these manual workflows that are happening today. So I can bring on either more products, more services, more opportunities without having to build up my resource allocations and obviously the cost behind it. So as you had mentioned, you're going to be growing the tail end of your business, right? Your pipeline, your funnel, all that stuff's growing without your overhead costs with the people. Now there is some technology costs, that's not excluded in that, but the scale you receive in that effect is it should, that's what the whole part of an ROI analysis is as well. Various businesses, it may not be as effective, but for the right businesses and the right sectors and the right growth trajectory, automation is the only way to sustain. As I mentioned as well, with compression happening from a reimbursement standpoint, that's another factor you have to look into. For you to stay viable in this industry and in healthcare in general, frankly, looking at automating manual steps and scaling your business from that perspective is going to be the way of the future.